It's going to open the last project that I had up, but what I actually want to do is see if I can grab this from my GitHub repository and get it to work. So RStudio, I'm going to do a new project, and I'm going to clone the GitHub repository into a new local project. So I'm going to go from version control from GitHub. So now I got to go so I'm going to go to GitHub. I'm going to go to the site for the SVI tools, and I'm going to clone this repository back into R. So when I do this, it's just going to give me the URL that I can copy. Command C to copy that location. I can drop that into R here where I clone the repository. I actually already have SVI tools set up, so I'm going to do SVI tools 2. And I'll leave it as a subdirectory of the R projects and documents. Let's do that. Okay. So if I create the project, it's going to open a new project, and all the files that I need are in there. So to get started, the critical feature, I think probably for you guys, for other users, is going to be to be able to run these functions. Because right now I have them set up at the census tract level, so you may want to change those to read states or counties or census blocks or something else. So I'm going to pull up the R file that has the functions in it. And I'm just going to see if we can get this to work. So for Rachel, when we were trying to do this the other day, I was thinking that something had gone awry in the code. It was actually just that the Census Bureau's servers were really overloaded on Wednesday, possibly because of this news about the citizenship question on the 2020 census, and so the API pings were just kind of timing out because the data transfer rates were really slow. But now I got the census tract functions file up. What I'm going to do is just highlight the whole thing and run it so that all the functions are just read into the workspace. Highlight it, Command Enter on the Mac, and everything should run. Obviously, you want to scroll up here to the top, and all of these libraries, you want to make sure you have these packages installed. So if they're not already installed in your R instance, you want to make sure you install all those before you try to load the libraries. So this function here at the bottom is this is the wrapper function I wrote that just is just going to call to all 16 of the functions that set up kind of this version of the social vulnerability index. It requires a year and then an API key to run it. My API key I actually hard-coded in this R file here. If you guys have your own API key, it'd be good if you used that, but if you don't, Just go ahead and use mine. Shouldn't be a huge deal. I think each API key gets several thousand downloads a day before they cut off your access, and I don't download anything close to that, so should be all right. I'm going to run that singular line so that the key is in there. And then back over to this census tract functions file. So before I just run this entire function piecemeal, because it takes kind of a long time to compile the data, I'm gonna try running a couple of the functions inside the wrapper function, make sure they all work okay before I try to run the whole thing and wait the 25 to 30 minutes for it to compile. So I need a year, set that value to 2015. I need a key, which is already here. So now this line here is going to get the total households, and it's just going to bind together the results of calling to the total households function for each of the states. 06 is California, 41 is Oregon, and 53 is Washington. Takes a second or two. And let's see. There we go. Okay, so that worked all right. Test out the population once, and then I'll call this good. Same thing here with population. While that's running, I'll show you one other thing over here, which is that if you want the census tract data for California, Oregon, and Washington, I've already compiled those, and it's in an RDA file, and so you're welcome to use those. When you clone this project from GitHub, you'll get these files dropped into your workspace, and you can use this RDA file. If you've not worked with RDA files before, and they're like, you can treat them like CSV files. They're R's data storage type, but you can read it with this. So SVI, you can read the compiled data in with a read RDS, and then you give it the file name. So for you, the directory is going to be a little bit different, so you may have to be explicit about the file path here. Here the working directory is wherever we cloned the project into, so let's do that first. The working directory currently is the project, and so if I want to read the RDS file, all I have to do is go data, because if we go back here, the RDA file is in the data subdirectory of the project, and then SVI census tract 2015 RDA, and then head SVI. So then that's the entire compiled data set that you're welcome to use if you just want census tracts for 2015. If you want, other stuff for other years, you may need to use these functions. And these functions actually are only set up to pull from census tracts, but they can be pretty easily modified to pull states or counties or other geographies if you want it. So before I got off on that tangent, I was doing the population one. So that population worked just fine. So now I'll I'll try to do the whole deal, and I won't make you sit and watch my screen for 25 minutes, but I'll just start it and wait a couple minutes, make sure nothing really crazy happens right at the beginning. When I do this, when I run this wrapper function, I usually set a timer, so I do set a time variable that I call the wrapper function. Key equals key because the variable, the value key, is already in the workspace. If it weren't, you would want to say key equals F5A32, F694A14B, etc., etc. Okay, so start the function, and then do another sys.time minus that time variable. So now there's a timer set on it. When it finishes running, it's going to tell you how much time it took to run it. And like I said, this screen video is going to be prohibitively long if we sit here and wait for this thing to compile, but the fact that it hasn't broken yet is a pretty good sign. Probably means the transmission speeds are fast enough that you're not going to get booted off in the middle of running one of these functions. And as long as that's the case, it'll compile these data for you. See, it'd be great if I could figure out how to end this screen recording that I've got going. Don't save that.
All I need is an RA. Do you need the system for that? Well, then I have to call back in an hour. You have a great day.
Okay, so where is this screen recording that I can... no, that's not it.